Hello scrappers and planet lovers, Tin Man here with another video. So I had several questions from a viewer about older style dehumidifiers and air conditioner units, and one of the questions they asked was, are they worth more as scrap? Is there more scrap material on them? Is there any comparison or difference between them? So what I have behind me here, this is one that I found. It is dated 2003, so it's almost 20 years old. There are a couple that are obviously older, and I will have a video on one from the 80s. More common that you see garbage day are the modern looking ones like this, the square top, if you will. These you will find often, and they are definitely something you don't want to pass up. They are loaded with copper aluminum radiators, a great compressor inside of them, and I have done a video on more of a modern one, as well as I have valued how much copper is inside of it, so if you're interested, go check that out. Before you scrap them, however, my rule still applies. Make sure you check to see if it works. These modern ones especially, I have plugged them in, and I have found probably about 15 of them that are in great working condition. I've either donated them or resold them, so you're definitely going to get more money selling them in good workable condition. If they don't work, unfortunately, they are definitely better to scrap than go to the landfill. But it is important that I point out that it is actually illegal to cut the copper tube and release that gas and liquid into the atmosphere. So you do need to get someone to come in to flush them. This one I will point out that when my friend came to flush all of them, this one was already flushed, so there must have been a small leak in the pipe. Garbage places or garbage men will not take these on garbage day because of the compressor as well as the Freon inside. So definitely you will find them on garbage day passed over by the garbage men. If people are not in the means of dropping it off at a recycling facility, you will find them there as well. And unfortunately, I have also found a couple air conditioner units in the ditch. People throw them off their vehicle because they don't know how to get rid of them. And obviously that is definitely something that will be harmful for the environment. And thank goodness there are scrappers out there who will take these and properly dispose of them and scrap the material and divert as much from the landfill as possible. So that is great. One thing about scrappers for sure. This one, as I said, I am going to value it out, price it out. And this plastic, the front here, as I said, this is a 2000 model. This one right here, there is a plastic frame, obviously, on the back as well. This plastic is thick enough to go into my recycle, so that's definitely good. But I will note that these types of dehumidifiers, the older ones especially, have more tin on them than the newer ones. As I said, I will have one that's about 1980s. I will be doing a video on that in the future, so once that comes out, go check that one out. But the nice thing about this, there are some great parts to it. All of these dehumidifiers are going to have a nice big compressor. They're going to have a lot of nice copper tubing. They are all going to have a small copper motor, fan motor, that I will get to in a second, as well as a lot of tin in this one, and your copper aluminum radiators. So these copper aluminum radiators do have the copper prongs that go from tube to tube, and I have actually separated them in this bucket here. You can bring these aluminum radiators in whole, and currently right now in London, Ontario, these are actually going for $1.97 a pound, which is an excellent price. They've gone up about 30 cents in the last week, so that is definitely great. So I can still bring these in as is, even after pulling off the copper. So these two as is, I have a scale here. I'm going to weigh them for you. There's my scale. These weigh by themselves, these two, 4.0002 pounds. So almost $8 just for these two copper radiators, as is. Some people will remove the rest of the copper out of that. I have actually done a video on that as well, showing you how to easily do that. I don't do it for all of them, these ones especially because the tubes are smaller, but it is easy to do. So again, I will put the links of those in my description. If you're interested in that, go check those out. Here I've actually separated the copper coils into two piles. These will all be number 2 copper, and that's because these have, one side of them will always have soldering, as you can see, the connectors there. And there are a number of them in here. As well, here is another bigger piece. This does have a little bit of soldering here. Any type of copper that has soldering on it, paint, glue, tape, any type of coating like that, as well as the liquids that comes out of these, would be number 2 value. And currently, this copper right here is going for $3.50 a pound. These ones, however, I have separated, and that's because these ones are free of soldering. They do still have a little bit of oil residue on them, but I will actually just drop these into a soap water solution. If it doesn't come off, then I will put it into a vinegar solution to clean it further. That way it removes that oil, and I will get number 1 value for that. And these are right now currently going for $3.84 a pound. So 34 cents more for this, as well as I have a lot of tubing here that came out of this. This connects to those copper aluminum radiators, go right to the transform or right to the compressor. And even this right here, if I was to bring this big hunk of copper in as is, I'm gonna get number 2 price. And that's because you can see there is soldering here, there's soldering there is soldering in midpoint here. So in order to upgrade this to number 1, all you have to do is actually just take a pair of side cutters or a pair of pliers and just cut the small piece where it connects with the soldering. So all I would do is this piece right here, my fingers would be number 2. The rest of this would be number 1. And again, if there is a little bit of oil residue on this, you can easily dunk it, but this definitely adds up. So this will eventually, most of it be number 1 price, but I am gonna weigh it just all together, just to simplify it, to see my final weight. So I'm gonna actually do that right now. So here's my number 2. Gonna do that. I have my scale on the floor here. I'll put it up here so you can see it at least. You won't be able to see the numbers, but at least you'll be able to see this. As soon as it turns on, there we go. So there it is. I have 3 ounces there, so not terribly much. You might think, wow, that's not a lot, but it all adds up. Here, right here, I have some more copper. Just gonna put this on the scale here. I have 7.3 ounces there. So that's gonna give me 10 ounces, almost 3/4 ounces right there. Here I have my number 2 that I have. I'm gonna just put this in a little container here just to make it easier. Okay, put this on top too. So 8.7 ounces there of number 2. Okay, so, and that's just the radiator going down to the compressor. So I still have a lot of more stuff as well. And I am gonna look at even the tin frame. Here's the first part, some pieces to this. There are gonna be levels that hold the motor. These are what come off of that copper radiator there. So I do pull these off. This is gonna be your tin. And tin right now is going for 8 cents a pound, which is an excellent price. I'm just gonna put this on the scale so I can get it out of here. So this right here, I've got about 6 pounds of tin. Okay, easy to store this up. You can see the little brackets that come off of that dehumidifier. So I'm gonna put this over to the side. So that's great, some tin there. A little bit of plastic here. As well as this wheel, I will crush that little pin out of there. That is aluminum. Just take a hammer and pull it out. But the rest of this is gonna be plastic and garbage, unfortunately. But not as much as I would have for my modern ones. The next thing I have here is getting to the small motor from that fan that you just saw. Oh, sorry, I will start with this. Here is a little bit more tin. This looks like plastic, but again, we put a magnet to it. So this held up your compressor. All of this, even though this does have some plastic, the rest of this is gonna be tin. So there's 3 more pounds. Here is the base of this thing. I'm gonna put this on there as well. I got another 6 pounds there of tin. Again, nice thing is I don't have to pull this hose off, so this is all going to be tin. I'll put this over here. Okay, just clearing off stuff off this table here. And I do want to take an opportunity to talk a little bit about the screws. These screws are all magnetic. So obviously there are a lot of them on there. I throw all of these into my tin pile, so I still get the 8 cents a pound for this. I will put it into a big vial or a big container, usually a coffee container that's tin, and I will fill it up. We get about 10 cents or 10 pounds worth, so that's definitely great. But there are some screws that came out of here that look like this, and you definitely want to check these screws. If I put a magnet to this, the magnet does not stick. Where is my magnet? Somewhere in my pile. But these are brass. So if I was actually to scratch these with a file, I'm gonna do that right now, show you. Put that up to a camera here. So there, right there, you can see the gold look. These are brass screws. There is a brass washer. And I mean, these are not worth that much, but here's the little brass washer, if you will. So all of this is yellow brass. Yellow brass right now is going for about $2.50 a pound. So definitely not a pound here, but I just store it, separate it. So that's great. So the motor that I have, the little motor, I have already removed it. And I do have separate videos showing you how to easily remove it. But there is the motor. These motors right now are going for about 15 to 20 cents a pound as is. But the number 2 copper that comes out of these is far better and more profitable taking it out. They're very easy to remove. And the nice thing is once you remove it, you're still getting the tin from the core here. So just this core here alone worth of tin is, I'm gonna get 2 pounds, 2.1 pounds for that tin. But here is the copper that I've already removed. Look at that beautiful number 2 copper. Again, I call it number 2 because it has some tape on it, some plastic. But right there, I have 11.6 ounces. So 3/4 of a pound at number 2 price. Definitely gonna make more from that copper motor. I also have the compressor. The compressor I am gonna talk about last, but there is the obvious from any type of dehumidifier, your outer cord. These cords are what a lot of people will take, especially because they do not want to open these. This cord right here, really nice thick cord, your appliance cord. And this right here as is gonna be your 40% appliance wire. And that's because if I look at it, this has one outer coating of plastic, but it also has 3 individual coated strands of copper. Because this has 2 layers of copper, there is less copper, more plastic on here ratio, so less copper recovery. And this currently right now is going for $1.20 a pound, and there is definitely a pound in this cord. This is a very thick, long cord that you can see. Some people will take the brass prongs off. I will take them off. Some will leave them on for the weight. But that brass, that is coated brass, so I put that into all of my brass. But again, a really nice copper wire that's 40%. The other stuff here, you can see all the way down. I've just removed the panel. I was able to take all of it out. There is definitely going to be stuff you can upgrade. This wire right here, if I just pull this sleeve off, I expose the wire. And this wire is going to actually be classified as 60% appliance wire because it only has an individual strands with 1 coating. You do have to remove the jacket. If I don't, then obviously it has 2 strands, so it'll be 40%. But this stuff by itself, cleaned up, is gonna give me the higher value and is currently going for $1.96 a pound. So it too has gone up about 30 cents in the last week. So that's definitely great. As well, I will say about this one, it does have some really neat features. It had a connector like that. These do have brass prongs here, so that is brass. I'm gonna just cut that wire off. Those connectors are gonna be brass. The screws are gonna be magnetic, but the attachments are definitely going to be brass. There is also a little bit of circuit board in here, but this is definitely going to be a nice value. As well, this one actually different from my common ones. It also has an aluminum radiator as is. So this aluminum radiator does have right here 2 relay boxes. These do have a little bit of copper on them, you can see, as well as a little silver contact or silver button, if you will. But this right here, if I put a magnet to it, it is aluminum. So this is going to be an aluminum radiator. And currently this is going for 65 cents a pound. It's definitely not a pound or it's not very heavy on its own, but I will weigh it. And I do have to make sure that I remove these little plastic connectors. But just to show you, it weighs 15.6 ounces, so almost a pound for that. But again, even with that little caulking stuff in it, the rest of this is aluminum. So this would be an aluminum grill or aluminum radiator, if you will. And it doesn't matter with the little caulking in there, but you will get scrap value for that. I do also want to point out that it does have a really nice circuit board. Look at those beautiful boxes right here. Every one of these boxes are actually relay boxes, and they all contain a small bit of copper. You can see this is an example of a relay box here. It has a little bit of copper spool. I'm going to show you this one. So if I opened it, that copper spool would come out. There is some more number 2 copper. As well, it will have some little connectors like this. And if I turn them, there is you can see the silver button, if you will, the silver dot. So there is a small amount of silver on that you do or can collect. I do cut those off, put them into a little vial, but definitely some more copper in here and definitely a better price for these circuit boards, removing the heat sinks here, extrusion, than bringing this in as is. So if I was to bring this in, unfortunately, my scrapyard only gives me one price for circuit boards, which is about 5 cents a pound. This one, definitely well worth taking apart because of the copper and the extrusion here. This is another form of aluminum. It'd be painted extrusion. And I'm going to get, just for this, about $1.05 for these 2 pieces of heatsink. And I have bags of aluminum heat sinks, which is great. But these relay boxes, again, always have a nice hidden spool of copper. It all adds up. And regardless of how shiny this is, all of this is going to be number 2 copper. And that's because when it comes to wire, number 2 copper or number 1 copper has to be thicker than 16 gauge, which is the thickness of the lead of a pencil. This wire is definitely a lot smaller than that. So it doesn't matter how shiny it is, it's all number 2, but it all adds up. And the last thing that I want to look at right here is my compressor. If I was to bring this compressor in as is, I'm going to get 16 cents a pound. So it does weigh about 15 pounds, which is nice. But when you open these, there is some beautiful number 2 copper in there. And it is a great and easy thing to get and maximize your profit. So I did take most of it apart. As you can see, I've already grinded off the one side. And here is the rest of that copper. I do also want to point out that this is the steel that came off of a small transformer that came off of the circuit board. So that's what that small transformer would be. There is the tin from it. And here are the 2 spools of number 2 copper. Look how nice thick that is. Transformers, you can bring them in whole and get 10 to 15 cents a pound. So if I brought this in. But again, there is, I'm still going to get tin price for this. So this is actually the one I took apart. That's tin. I'm going to get, let's weigh this. There's 7 ounces there, and there is about 2 ounces of copper there. So I'm definitely over a pound there just from some of those motors. But again, the last thing, this compressor, easy to take apart. You definitely want to check the sides. There is always going to be a black tube that comes off of there. I did check it. It was magnetic, so it was steel. But again, it's okay. I do have videos showing you how to open compressors, but these ones, definitely the higher cylindrical ones, you do want to make sure after you cut around the bottom, you do cut out a small lip, and that will actually help bring out this motor. So definitely want to put that link on there and show you how to take that out. But this rest of this compressor is metal, it's steel, it's going to go into tin, and it is also very heavy as is. There's still over 11 pounds here of steel. But this copper is the money maker. And again, I've already started it. Very easy to do. Once you remove the one side of it, I always put it into my vise. And the nice thing about this stuff, because it is oiled, or it is in an oiled container, it's almost like a nice lubricant, allows the wire to come out quicker and easier. Word of caution, you definitely, when you cut one of these compressors, you do want to make sure, I always put something underneath it, like an egg carton, just to hold any oil in there, because it does get messy and you definitely don't want it on your bench. But all I'm going to do is take a punch and just punch these out, just to slide them out a little bit better, make it easier for myself. It is unfortunately extremely warm in here today, so summer is not over. I apologize for any type of sweat or my appearance from this. But again, here is beautiful copper. And all I'm going to do right now is, now that I have it in here, just going to grab a pair of pliers, if you will, or it doesn't matter what I use, but I'm just going to use leverage to pull it up, slide it out. Okay, so there it goes, coming out nicely. Bend it one way, slide it out. Okay, and all of this is going to obviously be number 2 copper. Definitely want to make sure I get all my spools. So there are a couple that will come out and I just clean them up after. But here is, right here, some more tin. Just going to weigh this on its own. That is about 7 pounds, 6 pounds, just this, so that's great. And someone asked me why these would not be classified as steel. Why are they tin? And that's because in order for this to be classified as steel, the scrapyard will look at thickness. Steel has to be thicker than 1/4 inch, and it usually pertains to things like structural beams. This, although it looks solid, these are all individual plates. So this is going to be tin, compressed tin together. So it's going to give us 8 cents here. I don't want to say that that's everywhere, but that is how they look at it here in southwestern Ontario. So depending on where you live, they might have different rules. I know the states, there's different rules, as well as, you know, different provinces. But here, this would be tin. But again, no matter, 8 cents a pound. And moment of truth, my number 2 copper, I do pull these off. Okay, but I will leave the little bit of wire on that one side, or the, the rope, or if you will, the string. But here you go. This is going to show you how much from this. And I have factored in that. There's over 2 pounds here just from that motor. So I got 2 pounds there. I had 1 pound from the smaller one. I had about 2 ounces from this. I have loads of number 1 and 2 copper from this. I have already $8 from these 2 radiators. I have a whole bunch of tin that I have at 8 cents a pound, and some really nice 40% wire and 60% wire. So an excellent item. All dehumidifiers are definitely worth taking. This one I find has a little bit more with that copper or that aluminum radiator. Haven't seen that in more of the modern ones, but I will say most of them, if you were to look at it, they are all worth great money. And, you know, definitely something that is worthwhile taking, because you will find them all the time. Please, I hope you enjoyed that video. Hope that answered the question. Please comment down below, like, share, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one. Tin Man out.